Hi, my name is Eugene, and I'm a student currently studying at the University of British Columbia. I'm currently on my second year out of the fourth year of the Bachelor of Commerce program. I previously studied at Victoria Shanghai Academy in Hong Kong. I would say in general, like COVID actually hit me pretty hard in the face because before I went into uni during my final DP year, I was forced to transition from in-person to online classes in less than a week's notice. So let's just say I'm kind of used to it, but then it was also the same to me as I attended my first year of uni online. And so really, if you ask me how I survived the pandemic, I wouldn't have like a specific way to tell you how I survived it, but I would say, yeah, there would be tips of how to make the most out of it. And so I would say that I'm now here in Vancouver doing my second year, conducting like all my classes partially in person now and partially online. So I would say the process was not easy, but then it was actually a fun experience as well. So back to like talking about how I survived it. And so my first year consisted of fully online classes. And so I took one semester back in Hong Kong, and then the following term I came to Vancouver in around like December 2020 to do the other half. And so during my first semester of the year, I had to stay home in Hong Kong most of the time, as all of the courses I took was pretty much fundamentals, so it took a lot of effort, like physically and mentally, to complete as well. Studying during the pandemic was pretty hard, given that you could only access all the resources over the internet, and it was a big disadvantage to me, as I was also trying to seek help as well, because I wasn't doing that well at the start of the year. And although teachers and teaching assistants were trying their very best to, get what you need and stuff, because they were trying to accommodate for us over internet, and they were also doing this the first time, so it's really hard to get exactly what you need if you're doing everything over Zoom and everything, because sometimes it's not as good as when you're actually talking to that person like in person. So sometimes you get like really bad misunderstandings, or like you don't always get your messages through and stuff like that. And I would say the other disadvantage for me in this case would be trying to accommodate for work-life balance, because especially when you're studying at home in your own home country, it's really normal for one to be distracted by everything that's going around at home and stuff, and because you're used to living in that area, so there's a specific set of things you would want to do, and that would include like procrastinating or like just as simple as cleaning, right? And so because I personally was conditioned to be resting if I was in bed, and my working desk was literally next to my bed, so I get tempted to rest a lot, and so I might end up procrastinating in bed using my phone. And so to make the most out of it, I attempted going to coffee shops nearby. I didn't want to go far because it was COVID. And I also started trying to take light meals before my classes to reduce the chance of procrastination if I was really tired and stuff like that. And so this way, it didn't only help me focus better in class, I also made sure I had the energy to do whatever I had to deal with in class, whether that is asking the prof questions, listening, being attentive, or attending breakout room sessions. And so here the point is, especially when everything's online, it's really crucial for me to listen to what the professors have to say during the synchronous sections. And moving on to my next point, although it's very important that you're not distracted, it's also important that you leave some time out for your personal hobbies, or simply as simple as running errands, right? And no matter how busy schoolwork is for you, you should never forget to do the basic tasks that you're supposed to do every day. And that's how I made the most out of it, because especially during COVID and during everything online, doing everything at home, I personally, it's a little driving me insane, and for me, keeping myself organized and well-maintained would be the first step into keeping myself sane during this period of time. And because especially when I'm stressed, I tend to have a lot of bad habits and all that, and so controlling it and like knowing when to take breaks is very important for me to like stop myself from stressing out and like doing all these bad habits that are making me, go all over the place. And so whenever I maybe, let's say like I'm too stressed and I pull my hair a lot, I simply stop. That's when I know I need to stop working and go out for a walk. And that could be, honestly, you could do anything during that break. Just set a time for it. Whether that is going to the gym for a quick workout or simply laying back and watching your favorite TV show. And so I would say it's very important to strive work-life balance especially during a pandemic, is because basically now the place you're working in and the place you're conducting your normal life is basically restricted to the same cubicle. So to some people it'll be really good, but to most people, I guess, it would be it's sometimes very suffocating when you're in the same bubble in the same cubicle for a long period of time. And so I would say as online class was progressing, I kind of start feeling as if I was out of touch with the people in my university community, especially we're not getting the normal university experience. So especially because, as I said, we're doing everything over the internet. People log off simply once they're done with their work, and then they head off to do anything like other than work, or that is to conduct their normal routines. And so there's barely really a time that everyone would actually find time to communicate about anything outside the schoolwork bubble. At the beginning of the whole university semester, I guess everyone especially in my faculty, they were really hesitant to reach out to each other, considering because everything was remote. Especially during the pandemic, reaching out to meet some new friends is even more important now, because that would be the thing that keeps you going during a semester, I guess, to help you fight loneliness and all that. So for me, one of the main goals I had, or one of the main tasks I wanted to do, was to meet people. And although I do have some high school friends who are back in Hong Kong because they're in the same position as me, most of them were busy with their schoolwork and university. And that's a great opportunity for them to meet new friends rather than always sticking with the friends they have. And so what I did was I started reaching out to people in my cohort. I started talking to them about class content. And then from then, probably maybe like when I got more comfortable, I started moving on to daily conversations, and eventually I got to know some of my friends, which is some of the friends I have here now. And there's honestly no guideline on how to meet new friends, and I will not teach you how to do that, but I would say you should always try to initiate the conversation even though they don't, because doing so, having this in mind actually helped me survive the pandemic, as I actually met new friends from initiating conversations. And this one example I had was eventually I met a group of friends and we formed a study group, which actually helped me boost my grades through active revision and discussion, even though that was not something I did in person. Yes, and so moving on, there's a lot of people telling me that conducting remote classes for them, they don't require any effort, or simply they just think it doesn't require any effort. But through my experience, I know that is not true, because during our first year where we were trying to explore like our university career path, you will be facing a lot of new concepts and applications in classes that you might not have heard previously before in high school. So trust me, unless you're actually genius, I don't think you'll find anything in university easy. So that's why myself, I had trouble catching up, as I mentioned previously. And so it's even more easy, especially during the pandemic, for us to lose motivation during the process of like finding who we are, and like also like when we're working a lot, we lose the motivation since we don't have any social activities. We're restricted to that, and we basically don't get any of the university experience. So that even makes it even harder for us to gain the motivation to keep going, right? And so I also gave up on certain things after a period of time when I found like school content really hard to understand, and so I slacked off. And there was also a while where I skipped class, as I felt like there was a lot of stress going through my head. But then I knew that was not a long-term solution. Maybe short-term, I felt more happy, I got a lot more sleep. But then in the long term, I realized I had to find another solution for myself to boost motivation. And because our faculty in specific, for my faculty, it counts participation and active engagements in class. So I utilized this opportunity to actually force myself to speak in class. So being able to speak and being able to hear others' responses from class actually gave me the motivation to eventually start asking questions, and to actually give me an opportunity to speak up and clarify some misunderstandings I might have in class. And this also gave me the courage to reach out to other students in my cohort, and that's how I actually met friends, where I found my purpose to work even harder in university. And so that's why my advice for you to make the most out of the pandemic during your school learning is, even if classes are remote and participation is not a key contributor, I would say do try to speak out in class from time to time. I understand you might be shy and like it might be hard for some of you to speak up sometimes. Then I would say it may be a bit embarrassing at first, but then for me, the aftermath is pretty positive, and it was extremely helpful for me. Yeah, I was able to build my connections and my foundations simply by engaging in class and reaching out to other classmates. So, yeah, and that was whether it was on social media or it was in Zoom chat. So, yeah. And so to conclude, after my first semester, towards the end of 2020, my parents and I, we talked about what am I going to do forward in the next term, and they agreed that I should come to Vancouver. And we agreed upon the fact that it will be a good time for me to also explore the area before everyone else does. And they thought it was a time for me to become more independent and try living on my own. And although I came to Vancouver, I was still taking online classes for the second term. So that's why I would say this goes on. And for me, I don't really have any more tips, but I would say whenever you feel like you're down, or like whenever you feel like you're lost in the middle of nowhere, or you cry, you break down, that's something I've already experienced that quite a bit. I've also heard some of my friends have went through that as well. But the only thing I could tell you is whenever you feel down, or like whenever you lose the motivation and you break down, you don't know why you're doing it, all this, just always remember the first reason why you came here, whether that was when you were choosing your uni, or whenever that was when you were selecting why you selected this specific uni. That was whether you want to meet new friends or get good grades or study something you truly enjoy. Always remember that in mind, and that would actually help you, give yourself the motivation to actually move on from it. Or like you can, yeah, that's basically how I survived the pandemic. And so I would say for that, all the tips that I just gave you actually helped me through the pandemic, especially when I was really stressed, and when everything was online and I was struggling as well.